Sociologists have been theorizing about why the wealthy want to be perceived as middle class and hardworking for a while. But did you know in the early 20th century, some of them even speculated this was because of Christianity, specifically Calvinism and Puritanism? And before this goes any further, I will tell y'all I was raised Catholic and I have not been practicing since I was 19. And I regularly irritate my devout Catholic father by reminding him of the Catholic Church's role in the transatlantic slave trade. So this isn't an anti-religion video. This is just a history video because I'm a class researcher and these systems don't just pop out of nowhere. German sociologist Max Weber theorized that Calvinism influenced and laid the groundwork for modern capitalism. Calvinists believed in predestination, that God decided before you died whether you were going to heaven or hell, if you were chosen or not. And that one of the ways this was shown is that if you had wealth, you were God's chosen, and if you were poor, you were not. So many Calvinists, he said, busted their butts working, trying to earn wealth to show that they were part of God's chosen. Some have contested this, some have agreed. This was back in 1904. But Puritans also had a very clear mark on U.S. culture. Puritans didn't just see work as a means to an end, they saw it as a way to glorify God. Work was a spiritual calling, and this transformed everyday activities they did into a spiritual devotion. Some have theorized that both of these mindsets have been used to justify slavery, with some using it to say, well, if work is good, then there was nothing wrong with people being enslaved because they had to do work, which was holy. And others pointing out that the idea of predestination, that if you're poor, which obviously slaves were, they had nothing, that you weren't God's chosen, but that by allowing them to work, you were at least helping them do something positive spiritually. In modern day, we don't see this as much tied to spirituality, but we do see it tied still to morality. Instead of serving God, we have more of the goal of success and achievement. You can see this with self-help gurus telling you to get up early and get at it, how often people brag about how busy they are, and how many people still don't use all their PTO, even though Americans have way less PTO than a lot of other developed nations. This emphasis on hard work creates a moral hierarchy in our society. People who are perceived as having a strong work ethic are also perceived as morally righteous, while the non-working elite are seen as immoral and lazy. For people who are wealthy, if they have the idea that they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, then there is an idea that they have earned their success. This distances them from the narrative of being part of the non-working elite, while generational wealth more implies the latter. But this perspective can lead to oversimplified views of success and failure, ignoring things like generational wealth, generational poverty, generational enslavement, or other forms of racial discrimination. Being allowed to own and use your own capital privately, like women haven't been able to do until the 70s. But believing that everything is earned and everyone gets what they deserve makes us feel at ease, gives a sense of meritocracy, soothes the cognitive dissonance. Knowing this history helps us understand the unwritten rules of our work culture, of why we see work as so good and holy compared to many other places in the world. Not all of them, we're not the only workaholics, but we are notorious for American hustle culture. Identifying these unwritten cultural rules gives us the opportunity to write new ones, to consciously create rules where we recognize that every person has inherent value that doesn't always have to do with their work. Think of how ableist this could be. If somebody's disabled and unable to work, do we see them as less worthy? Everybody has dignity inside and outside of work, and everybody has inherent value regardless of their work status and achievements.